history with ASHURA up until like what happens with terror groups today, you could look at that and see how these inhumane acts, this is not up to the standard of this ayah, basically. It's like ties right into it, and it highlights the importance of that. So basically I just wanted to leave us with that, and I want to begin our program inshallah, and we could reflect upon that, and we could always seek to achieve spiritual and mental growth as the program continues inshallah. So let's begin with our lecture. Let's bring to the stage our beloved Imam here at the ICA. I bring to you Samahat al-Sheikh Dr. Ibrahim Kazaruni. Let's have a loud salawat ala Muhammad and ali Muhammad, please.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. نحمده ونشكره على نعمائه. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وصحبه المنتجبين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. We praise Allah, the Master of both worlds. We praise Him for all the blessing that we receive. We praise Him conscious that if it was not for His guidance, we would have been lost. We also convey our greeting and salutation to the Holy Prophet of Islam and his pure progenies. Assalamu alayka ya Abu Abdullah wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bifina'ik. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. عن أبي عبد الله الحسين عليه السلام إنه قال: الناس عبيد الدنيا والدين لاعق على ألسنتهم يحوطونه ما درت معايشهم فإذا محسوا بالبلاء قل الديانون. People are slaves of the material life and pay lip service to the faith so long as their benefits and interests remain untouched. Once they are confronted with the challenges, very few people remain faithful. Last night, to begin my conversation, I made a comparison between what Martin Luther King said, the beloved community, and stated that if we were to reinterpret the concept of ummah, in which it is more of a principally inclined rather than faith structure, not every Muslim automatically becomes part of the ummah. Anyone who works and struggles for the sake of establishing justice, and for human dignity, then they deserve to be part of this community. And I also, as a second topic, looked at in response, or trying to respond to the question, why is it that despite all the fanfare of the 1960s and early 1970s regarding civil rights movement, nothing was established in the United States about the beloved community, or anywhere else for that matter? To answer the question, I went to Nahj al-Balagha, and looking at various sermons, it became clear that Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah salamu alayhi had a unique approach towards this concept of what we call ummah, or the desired community. Outlines in a number of verses 3 major conditions. Number one, unclear and correct understanding of humans themselves. Unless we understand that humans, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created with 2 components, or 2 parts to it. Number one is the material, the clay, and number 2, the spiritual. And any attempt to develop or design a community that is expected to work for justice and human dignity will fail if the major component of this complex being is absent. If no longer we bring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala into the equation and is missing, detached from Allah and the spirituality, we see nothing within human being more than a mechanical contraption that not only does not perceive and understand the expansive notion of justice, he cannot or she cannot become an instrument to it. This is why in Surah Al-Hadid, verse number 24, لَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلَنَا بِالْبَيِّنَاتِ, the verse begins by the notion of revelation, before then ends with asking people to that people ultimately become those who would implement justice and create justice on earth. So any expectation for human being or from human being that ultimately will become instrument for justice, if it's detached, these humans are detached from the source and the sacredness of human reality, they would fail. We also talked about the understanding of dunya, or this world. If we assess or pay attention, we will be able to see that there is some kind of connection between all these 3 major issues. Insan, human being, this world, and the hereafter. This synthesis between the 3 issues become critical. Once we establish that that sacred component comes back to the human life, then ultimately the second question is, how does this human look at this world? Is it the mean for achieving something, or is it a goal in itself? If life, material life, becomes the goal in itself, then we have a fundamental problem. If this is what we have, 50 years, 60 years, 100 years, whatever it is, this is the reality, then why should I spend my time out of this life to search for justice and respect for everybody else? It's a competitive world, that me against somebody else. And a third component here is the hereafter and the notion of accountability. All these 3 issues have to be connected to each other. But the concept, or the first step is bringing the sacredness into human life. Then Amir al-Mu'mineen reminded those who were asking him to define or to explain what is this desired community or ummah that we are looking for. That was the point that I raised yesterday, and Imam reminds them that look at the previous nation before you and how their unity, converges, singular voice, etc., etc., helped them to dominate the world. So these are the fundamental concepts that we have to bring into our discussion. So the human, what we call a desired community, call it beloved community, call it ummah, call it whatever we want, the desired community cannot be established if these fundamental concepts are absent. And for Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah salamu alayhi, it's not an issue that is purely quantitative, it's qualitative. He says, إنه لا غناء في كثرة عددكم مع قلة اجتماع قلوبكم. If your hearts are not fused together, even if you have multitude, it's not going to work. Just look at ourselves in the Muslim world. We claim proudly that we have 1.6, 1.7 billion Muslims. What have we achieved? The Arab world, God knows how many people they are. Within the Middle East, since the beginning of the 20th century, they are being played with by colonial powers, one after the other. It's not the number, because the hearts are not fused. Just to give you an example, those of you who are still familiar with the Lebanese history, now after 10 years, when the documentation are available and we can read the historical documentation, even by the Zionists themselves, the Israelis poured over 100,000 soldiers, Marines, airmen into Lebanon. Opposing them, by their own admission, was 5,500 men of Muqawamah. 33 days of war, and they had to leave. They were the one for the first time in their history to go to United Nations and ask for a ceasefire. Why? This is the same army, less equipped in 1967. In 6 days, they routed the entire army that existed those days. Iraq, Syria, Jordan, and Egypt, and the rest of them. 5,500 stands still, beats over 100,000 fully equipped army. It's called the third or the fourth army in the world. By what? It's that what Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah salamu alayhi called the fusion of the heart. Because singular vision, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا رَبُّنَا اللَّهُ ثُمَّ اسْتَقَامُوا. Those who said, Lord, Allah is our Lord, and then persevered. It's not a number game. Have huge community. If they are divided, we will not be able to achieve anything. Smaller community, fully coherent, understand their responsibility, they can achieve much better than a divided community. So Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah salamu alayhi says, إِنَّهُ لَا غِنَاءَ فِي كَثْرَةَ عَدَدِكُمْ مَعَ قِلَّةِ اجْتِمَاعِ قُلُوبِكُمْ. If you want the desired community, first bring your heart and fuse them together. Now we're going back to another issue which somehow relates to the previous conversation we had. The hadith that I started from Imam Hussein salawatullah salamu alayhi, الناس عبيد الدنيا والدين لاعق على ألسنتهم ما يحوطونه ما درت معايشهم فإذا محصوا بالبلاء قل الديان. People pay lip service to faith, so long as their interest is protected and preserved. Once they are confronted with challenge, very few people remain faithful. The language of the hadith is not different from the other ahadith that we have within the same context. There is a hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen sallallahu alaihi wasallam that says, "Hubbud dunya ra'sul fitan." Love of this world, material world, is literally the heart of all the calamities that we humans have to confront with. So it's not the language that this makes it distinct from other ahadith, it's the context. If we look at history, Imam Hussein salawatullah salam alayhi, it's narrated in history that he said this hadith in a unique position. 2 or 3 days after the beginning of Muharram, he has reached the plain of Karbala. The first army to come is Hur and over 1,000 of the so-called Muslims. Hur makes his position quite clear as the commander of the battalion. I have the instruction or the command not to allow you to go anywhere. You have to stay where you are until Ibn Ziyad makes a decision. Conversation develops between Imam and Hur and the army, and then Imam turns to his camp and then delivers this message. An-nasu abidud dunya. So yes, the language is general, but he is referring to the particular community that invited him. And if you listen to it, Imam says they bring out all the letters that he had received from Kufa. Hur says, Ya ibn Rasulullah, I did not write a letter. I did not write a letter inviting you. But as a commander of the battalion, I have an instruction and a command. I cannot let you go anywhere. So Imam says, An-nasu abidud dunya wa dinu la'iqun ala alsinatihim. What does that mean? He is reminding his camp that these people that are going ultimately fight with me are people from those who claim to be faithful. We have no historical document that says any army or came from Sham to Kufa to fight with Imam Hussein. So the entire people that were present was from Kufa and around Kufa. Some of these people were disciples of Ali alayhi salatu wasalam during the Battle of Siffin and fought with him against Muawiyah. Some of them were camp of Imam Hassan. It is narrated in history that Shimr was injured in the Battle of Siffin fighting with Ali against Muawiyah. Had he lost his life then, he would have been considered a martyr. This person that to us Shia during ASHURA epitomizes everything evil in a human being, walks 16 times barefooted to go to Hajj. So don't exonerate ourselves that because we are Shias or somehow there is a unique position is reserved for us and we have one-way ticket to eternity and heaven. These people that came didn't come from Mars. These were people that lived in Kufa. They saw Ali during the time that he was Khalifa and leader of the community. They saw Ahl al-Bayt. Go and read the history. On the day of Ashura, Imam Hussein salawatullah salam alayhi looks at the list of those who invited him, and he sees them within the army of Umar ibn Sa'd, and one by one calls the name. didn't, Ya Fulan, Ya Fulan, Ya Fulan, didn't you send me a letter inviting me to Kufa? These were people that had something in common. They all claimed to be the followers of Ahlul Bayt, or at least stood up with Ali during some period of their time. What happened to them? That the same people, on the day of Ashura, they forget about all principles of ethics and morality and everything else. This is what the hadith An-Nasu Abidud Dunya refers to. Once a community, a society, and this is why Farazdak, when Imam Hussein salawatullah salam alayhi, asked him how he could assess Kufa, he said, Ya ibn Rasulullah, قلوبهم معك وسيوفهم مع بني أمية. How could a community live with such a dichotomy? Their heart is with you or are with you, but their sword is with Bani Umayyah. Because every single one of them has created a comfort zone for himself or herself that they are not prepared to risk it. Once a society becomes materialistically inclined, there are 4 or 5 unique conditions or character within this society that ultimately comes to negate exactly the problems that are the principles that we have been discussing regarding establishment of justice. Number 1, under this society, God departs. Those of you who study Western philosophy and are aware with Nietzsche's philosophical work, God is dead. Now, how can we as human, because sacredness is removed, the other component within human beings are detached, God is no longer there, how can we as human replace God? So a society that is purely materialistic and dunya becomes the goal rather than the instrument for achieving something else, God departs. And once God departs, all the criteria of good and evil changes. For such a society, this is why Imam Hussein salawatullah salam alayhi complains, أَلَا تَرَوْنَ إِنَّ الْحَقِّ لَا يُعْمَلُ بِهِ وَإِنَّ الْبَاطِلَ لَا يُنْهَى عَنْهُ. Don't you see? Your society has been changed around that nobody now encourages justice and truth, and nobody stops evil. Another one is Sunnah is dead. And again, we see this being referred to in the in the speeches of Imam Hussein. أنا أدعوكم إلى كتاب الله وسنة نبيه فإن السنة قد أميتت. Sunnah, the way of life of the Holy Prophet, everything else is dead. Another critical issue is when it comes to moral and ethic, the end justifies the means. Our moral and ethical values become no more than the benefit that we get from the action itself. If there is a benefit, then it's right. If there is no benefit, then it is wrong. So the end, Machiavellian understanding of history, the end justifies the mean. You can do anything you want. You occupy Iraq and you appeal to the Christian concept of the just war theory. Why? Because for a colonial mindset, it's beneficial. The benefit becomes the factor. Let's look at our own history. Let's go back to early history. Give you a few examples of the early history, and then we come to the present. Ghadir. The Holy Prophet of Islam, historians claim that up to 100,000 were present during the time of Ghadir. When the Holy Prophet explained to everyone that the role that I have after me is going to be taken up by Ali. That has no doubt. And then he went through elaborate steps in which he invited people to swear allegiance to Ali. So what happened? Few months later, the Holy Prophet dies. I refuse to accept that there was a spell of amnesia hit the entire Muslim community at that time. They all forgot about what happened in Ghadir. No, they all knew. But they wanted to live. This living and the love of life came to dictate, and hence they forgot about everything else. We see the same thing with Fadak, we see the same thing with war with Ali, we see the same thing with Sulh and peace of Imam Hassan, and we see the same thing with Karbala. These people were Muslims. They all prayed. Last night I pointed out that on the day of Ashura, Umar ibn Sa'd led a prayer and Imam Hussein led a prayer. The prayer wasn't the issue. It was that principle, justice and understanding that you are prepared to sacrifice everything for the sake of justice, that is the issue. Now that is the story of 1,400 years ago. Let's come back to the present. I asked you a few nights ago, what are you going to do if you are confronted with an injustice? How would you respond? You look at this history, the same thing happens. I refuse to accept that there was not a single soul that could see in the history of, say, United States, from the moment that the Puritans left Europe and came to this country and demolished and killed the native nations, not a single soul understood that this is objectionable and has to stop. They all knew it. When you brought slaves from other part of the world, this was what? Acceptable? When you talk about massacre of others, African Americans and the crisis that they had, everybody knows. And I asked during my period when I was at Aleph School of Theology, I asked a number of Christian theologians, and I put this in front of them, the case of Iraq war. I said, tomorrow you'll go to the pulpit and you stand to deliver your sermon. Because in class, almost all of them were against the war in Iraq. Unjust, irrational, illegal, etc., etc. I said, why don't you take a position? Tomorrow you go to the pulpit on Sunday and you stand and you deliver your sermon against the war in Iraq. The moment you stand up to deliver the sermon, you look in front of you, the first pew, and you see a number of retired army generals that they have their own understanding of what is patriotism. And they provide 90% of the wealth for your church. Are you prepared to stand up and say this is illegal and immoral? Not a single one said, yes, I'm prepared to stand up. This is theirs in our community, the same thing. Syria is being demolished. What can we say? Nothing. Yemen over a year has gone literally leveled off the ground. Nothing. Palestinians are still suffering. Nobody says anything. Bahrain is another one. Nobody says anything. Iraq continues to bleed. As long as I go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning and my business flourish and continues, and I have my own house and few cars and travel few times in a year, that's all the cocoon that we have constructed for ourselves. Once material life dictates, God is out, ethics and morality changes. There is a hadith that says on the day, the end of time, ma'ruf becomes munkar, munkar becomes ma'ruf. because of self-interest. It certainly would not pay to rise and stand for justice and be critical. Let me leave you with this hadith as I'm getting to the end of time, my time. The hadith is well known. أَأْمُرُوا بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَانْهُوا عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ أَوْ لَسَلَّطَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمْ شِرَارَكُمْ فَيَدْعُوا خِيَارَكُمْ فَلَا يُسْتَجَابُ لَهُ. Encourage good and prevent evil. Otherwise, the nature of thing, once good goes out of the window, tyranny comes back to dictate. And once tyranny comes in, the good keep crying, "Oh Lord, do something," but it's too late. Imam Hussein was not killed by some fictitious army coming from another part of the world that they did not believe in Islam. Killed by Muslims, that they prayed, they fast, they went to mosque, they prayed Jum'ah, they had their own thing. But one thing that they had in common compared to the camp of Imam Hussein, the love for the material world. Let us pray. Let us ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our shortcoming and to give us courage to really stand up for justice. And also grant solace and peace to the soul of those who have departed among us from our community. And please join me in reciting Surah Al-Fatiha for the souls of everyone, but including Marhum Al-Allama Sheikh Muhammad Jawad Sharri. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
Thank you, Maulana, for that beautiful lecture. Let's have a loud salawat to honor, please. Ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Next, we are going to have some beautiful poetry being recited. So let's give a warm welcome to Sister Fatima Najdi. Let's have a loud salawat ala Muhammad and ali Muhammad for her, please.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. Inshallah, I have two poems for you today. Both are in regards and in praise of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. This first one is entitled Entrances. It's about how he enters the heart, and why he enters the heart, and why we guard our hearts once he's entered. If I could please ask for one loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bring love to me, show me my deed. After you, what else could I welcome? Titles of sacrifice he'd give up. What he gives wraps stems a tulip. Ask a barrier one thing simple. Have you guarded Hussein idol? It crumbles in confusion. Builds it up again does the sun. When Hussein enters, it all seals. From longing, entrances to him kneel. And when he enters these abodes, something stops all else. They need codes. The key is emotions. Like love, but they all look to him above. Stunned, their love won't work nor unlock. Hussein's love they called, and so to them it would walk. Bring love to me, show me my deed. After you, what else could I welcome? Deeds grow heavy on your soul tree. We pluck what we can love and see. We beg your quest to our center. With your love, nothing comes after. We take you whole with no question. You gave beauty to each action. Growing fond of you is no task. To love you, we don't need to ask. Given your stature, who are we? Given your stature, who are we? Specks of dust found in your great sea. We found Hussein in our hearts. No, from this, no other departs. His arrival brings happiness. His spirit alone can lift us. Grand openings felt in each soul when Hussein becomes the new goal. Bring love to me, show me my deed. After you, what else could I welcome? Hearts are in need of some greatness. Without Hussein, hearts are fruitless. With him we can only smile. Souls are dust if left in exile. Truth comes with him, so hearts soften. The space and hearts he would broaden. Let him come with no repercussion. In all the races of deeds, he has won. Keep all the doors open for him. Turn on the lights, don't keep it dim. And even if you do, he'll light it. He'll wait for you as he will sit. But if something is missing, don't fret. All that you need, Hussein will go get. Life's struggles end when he enters, and within your heart his love stirs. Bring love to me, show me my deed. Hussein, after you, what else could I welcome? Keep up with his shelter always. Keep up with his shelter always. With him, very few questions raise. He quenches the thirst for beauty. From his love you won't want to flee. He captures all good in a glimpse. The face that launched 1,000 ships. His shadow is too grand to hide. None can conceal him. Though he has died, he has the smile that brightens. Around him, the whole world tightens. Hussein triples all that's flawless because he is its own basis. All have limits, but he doesn't. All have limits, but he doesn't. All can wither, but he is present. Hussein flies in us for centuries, and souls gather to him as do we do to beauties. Bring love to me, show me my deed. After you, what else could I welcome? After you, what else could I welcome? Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Again, like yesterday, this poem is quite fast. It's a very visual poem. Try to literally think of everything as an image. As I said yesterday, it's not in this poem, but if I was to say Zainab's heart is pumping our tears. Literally think of an anatomical heart pumping the tears that we shed. And inshallah, it will give you a new meaning to the poem. You'll memorize the line for later to reflect upon, and inshallah, you'll gain more out of the poem. And this doesn't just go for my poetry in general. I think it requires a very visual mind. If I can ask for one loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Hussein grew in my heart, and there he grows mountains. Hussein grew in my heart, and there he grows mountains. Hussein grew in droplets of rain, and there you see growing his nourishment. Hussein grew in houses, and there he grows morality in every morsel. Hussein grew inside of dust, and there he grows the son of Ali, the father of dust. Hussein grew in our parents, and there he grows for us children. Hussein grew in our love, and there he outgrows its limits. Hussein grew in our memories, and there he dominates all others. Hussein grew in the skies, and so the moon would grow fond of him. Hussein grew with injustice, and so justice increases its growth. Hussein grew around tulips, and so they spread themselves all over. Hussein grew with us, and so he is in our every step. Hussein grew in our minds, and there he grows in our every thought. Hussein grew in our minds, and there he grows in our every thought. Hussein grew in oceans, and so he grows onto our lands. Hussein grew in our warmth, and so he grows into every lively being. Hussein grew in prosperity, and so we grow onto his land. Hussein grew in our winds, and so he grows stronger each day. Hussein grew like vegetation. Hussein grew like vegetation, so we only consume. Hussein grew in our words, and so he grows into our poems. Hussein grew in our sounds. Hussein grew in our sounds, and so we only hear the hymns of a lion. Hussein grew like breath grows life, and so every breath whispers his name. Every breath whispers his name. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you, sister, for that beautiful poetry. Let's have a loud salawat to honor, please. Ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ahsan. Next, we're going to have our majlis. We're going to bring, it's my honor to introduce Brother Yunus Maki. Let's have a loud salawat ala Muhammad and Ali Muhammad for it, please.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. نحمده ونشكره ونستعينه ونستغفره، ثم أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على من بعث رحمة للعالمين، سيدنا وحبيبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا، العبد المؤيد والرسول المسدد، المصطفى الأمجد، أبي القاسم المحمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you, my dear brothers and sisters. Tonight we remember those whom Imam Hussein called the best companions. Those who did not leave even when their Imam gave them permission to do so. How many ever there may have been, each companion was unique and brilliant in their own respect. Each fought for justice and manifested it in its entirety. Unfortunately, tonight we will not be able to mention all of them. However, I truly believe that if we studied each of their lives, we would find within them lessons for whatever trials and tribulations, both spiritually and socially, that we undergo every day. Such as the dignity given to a woman as epitomized in Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, or how to adequate your time properly, as shown in the character of Abu Samam as-Sa'idi. Because of such, I would recommend you, my dear brothers and sisters, to look over the book relating to the heart-rending tragedy of Karbala by Sheikh Abbas al-Qummi. Tonight, however, we will learn the true meaning of friendship from Habib ibn Mudahir. This man embodied Imam Ali's saying, of a friend cannot be considered a true friend until they are tested in 3 occasions: in a time of need, behind your back, and after your death. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا قتيل العبرات. السلام عليك يا أسير الكربات. The narrations mention that day by day the scene in Karbala was changing. More and more soldiers joined the enemy's camp. 30,000 have gathered to kill Hussein, the grandson of the Holy Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Lady Zainab said to her brother Hussein, Thousands of soldiers are gathering to fight you. Thousands of soldiers are gathering to fight you. We have hardly 72 men with us. Do you not have anyone to come to your help, brother Hussein? Imam Hussein told her, my sister Zainab, many wanted to join me during the journey from Medina to Karbala. I politely discouraged them because their intention was not truthful. Many joined and have run away during the journey because they were scared of dying. Imam Hussein alayhi salam continued, Zainab, my sister, falsehood can buy many supporters, but truth has only a few friends. These soldiers on the other side have been bought. They prefer happiness in this world than in the world hereafter. However, Ya Zainab, my 72 truthful men prefer happiness in the world hereafter, and that is why they have joined me. That night, Imam Hussein wrote a letter to his childhood friend, Habib ibn Mudahir al-Asadi, who was in Kufa. Kufa at the time was blocked off and nobody was allowed to leave. Habib ibn Mudahir did not know about the whereabouts of his beloved Imam Hussein alayhi salam until the letter from Hussein arrived at his door. At the time he was having breakfast with his wife and a young son. Habib read the letter from Hussein. He kissed it and tears began flowing from his eyes. He now had news from his beloved. His wife asked him what was wrong, and Habib replied, I have received a letter from my beloved Hussein. He has asked me to join him in Karbala. Yazid's soldiers have surrounded him and are after his life. Habib's wife said, look at this brave woman. Habib's wife said, Habib, your childhood friend has called you. Your master needs your help. What are you waiting for? Go, Habib, go. Go, Habib, go, before it is too late. Habib's worry was how to escape from Kufa without being seen. He instructed his servant to take his horse to a farm outside of Kufa and to wait for him there. The servant did as he was told. The servant took Habib's horse to a farm outside of the city and he waited for his master. His master was delayed because of the complications. The servant started talking to the horse, whispering in its ears, oh horse, Master Hussein is in trouble. He needs help. He asked my master Habib to join him. Master Habib is late. Horse, if he does not manage to escape from Kufa, I will ride on you. I will ride on you and go to Hussein's help. At Asr time, most of the men were in mosque. Habib managed to reach the farm where his horse was waiting. He quickly mounted his horse and said to his servant, go, my friend, go. I am freeing you from my services. Imam Habib's servant replied to him, Master, you are not being fair. I have served you faithfully for years. Now I have the chance to serve the son of Lady Fatima, and you are asking me to go. Why are you denying me a place in heaven? Habib was taken aback by the words of his servant. He was pleased to hear that he had recognized the difference between truth and wrong. He wanted to sacrifice his life for the truth. Habib asked his slave to mount his horse. Together they galloped towards Karbala. Habib ibn Mudahir reached Karbala late in the evening on the 9th of Muharram. Imam Hussein greeted him with great affection. Lady Zainab heard that Habib had come. She asked her maid Fidda to convey her greetings to Habib. When Habib heard that Lady Zainab had sent his greetings to him, he screamed out in grief and anger, Assalamu alayki ya aqilata bani Hashim. He threw his turban down on the ground. He slapped his face. Tears rolled down his cheeks as he spoke. What a sad day. What has happened to the household of Lady Fatima, the princess, granddaughter of the Holy Prophet, the daughter of Ali and Fatima, is sending her greetings to an ordinary person like me. Yazid, you beast, you tyrant, what have you done to the household of Lady Fatima? Days and nights of Muharram passed by, and the 10th day of Ashura arrived. At dawn, Ali al-Akbar gave adhan for the last time. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Yazid's soldiers blew the trumpets to start the battle. One by one, Hussein's companions went to the battlefield and gave their lives for Islam. Hussein, Abbas, and Ali Akbar were busy from dawn to midday, collecting bodies from the battlefield. Between Dhuhr and Asr time, Habib ibn Mudahir came to Hussein. He said, Mawla ya Hussein, my master Hussein, allow me to go to the battlefield. Let me sacrifice my life for Islam. Imam Hussein replied to him, Habib, my childhood friend. Habib, my childhood friend. Stay with me. You give me comfort to me, my friend. Habib persisted with his request. Eventually, Imam Hussein alayhi salam gave his permission. Hussein mounted his friend Habib on the horse. Habib ibn Mudahir rode into the battlefield. He was a man of 80 years, but look what a lion he was in the battlefield. He fought bravely, but was finally overpowered. He fell to the ground. As Habib ibn Mudahir fell to the ground, helpless, an enemy soldier came over and cut off his head. All the martyrs of Karbala had their heads cut off, but Habib's was the first to be cut off. Habib's head was not hung on the spearhead like that of the other martyrs. No, brothers and sisters. Habib's head was tied to the horse. Habib's head was tied to a horse and pulled along the land of Karbala. So whenever the horse would jump up and down, so would Habib's head. Later on in Sham, Habib's head was tied to the horse's neck. A young boy called Qasim followed the horse whenever he went looking at it. One day, the man riding the horse asked the young boy Qasim, "Why are you following me around? What do you want?" Qasim just looked at the head hanging from the horse's neck. The man asked again, "Why are you staring at the head?" The little boy replied, "This head is the head of my father. This head is the head of my father, Habib ibn Mudahir. Please give it to me so that I can bury my father's head." Brothers and sisters, it is as if Habib looked at his son and said, "My son Qasim, you are thinking of burying my head. What about the head of Hussein? What about the head of Hussein, who was on the spearhead for 40 days? Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أهل بيت محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. My dear brothers and sisters, it is narrated that Imam al-Mahdi has said, I pray to Allah that whenever my grandfather Hussein is remembered among the people, my followers will pray for my reappearance. Let us stand together and pray for Imam Mahdi's reappearance and face the Qibla, please, my dear brothers and sisters, together. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Together. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين أجمعين. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
This concludes tonight's English lecture. We're going to take a break for Salat, and then 8 p.m. we're going to begin the Arabic program. So inshallah we'll see you all tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum.